It said my mic wasn't working, which was weird.
Good. So I reckon, Justin, you'll be the one driving the initial discussion, yeah?
Yeah, so I'm doing like am I able to present? I guess I have one slide I want to show.
Miza?
Yes, you will be able to flash.
Okay.
Thank you.
Just want to make sure.
Can I have the recording permission? Is it possible?
Yeah, me
Yes,
too.
we will also be sharing the recording.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Hey, Oliver, Arjit,
Hi.
Farah, Dr. Justin. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Before we start proper, I know it's pretty informal right now, but we should just, bring our hearts together and welcome Arijit for his birthday today. I just got to know this morning.
Oh,
So it's a very special day. He woke up very early from India and now he is opening the day, his birthday date with us. So really appreciate Arijit.
Thank you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy
birthday.
birthday.
Farah, please issue a digital cake or party balloons or something for him. Yeah.
I will.
In along with our discussion, you need to issue a cake NFT.
All right.
Wow, that's interesting. Yeah,
Cake
really
NFT.
appreciative of his time. It's pretty early right now, right? It's like about what 2.5 hours before.
Yeah, since 7 o'clock. It's not that early. It's fine.
Oh, it's not that bad. But glad that you can start the day, your birthday, with our session. So later, Farah will sing you a birthday song, Marilyn Monroe style. All right, the Sharia compliant Marilyn Monroe style. Dr. Justin, I know it's pretty late at night for you. From where, Washington or something?
Well, I'm at Penn State. I'm at Penn State right now. So
Penn State. Yeah, that's right.
Sitting in the classroom. I went and charged my car real quick so I could hop back on the road and came back in the classroom.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much. And be careful of the lioness behind you. It may pounce on you anytime. Yeah, and before we start proper, also welcoming Oliver. Tomorrow we'll be having our little launch for the Center for AI Innovation and the CAI program. So his organization, Apara, will be officiating the panel discussion and the official signing ceremony. For the certification.
Yeah, and if any one of you is free and available tomorrow, please feel free to join us. I can send the link across, and feel free to look at what we have. We actually run this AI Robotics event over 5 weeks, and there's a request for 2 more. We're trying to struggle how to organize the next 2 now. But thanks to Nasri for supporting us in the event.
Likewise. Thanks for supporting us in this event in between your very heavy schedule. And of course, Farah, thank you for joining in. And
My pleasure.
we love to hear, you're the rose amongst the thorns, or maybe thorns amongst the roses. So we hope to.
How you put it that way?
We always maintain diversity in our panel mix as best as possible. But of course, notwithstanding your skill set, your knowledge in the venture capital industry, your thoughts and views are always very objective and very structured. So we love to hear your thoughts on AI and blockchain. I know all of us are very passionate about AI, and we are also equally interested in blockchain, but there is a lot of mystery, a lot of thoughts, a lot of misperceptions or misconception, I'm sure, about blockchain, which we have to demystify, right, today. So maybe shall we start the session proper? Or I'll pass over to Miza for the session start, yeah? Thank you very much, everyone. Look forward to your contributions.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Nazri. Welcome, everyone, to the webinar AI and Blockchain. Where do they meet? In this special event, we will first begin with the keynote presentation by Dr. Justin Golston, Professor, Project and Supply Chain of Management, Penn State University. This will then be followed by a panel discussion moderated by M. Nazri, Adjunct Practice Professor, Founder and CEO, MyFinB Group. The panel discussion will be consisting of Dr. Justin Golston, Oliver Tian, Honorary Advisor from Asia Pacific Assistive Robotics Association, APARA, Wan Farah Ahmad, co-founder, director, and CIO of Kanzon Ventures Management, as well as Arijit Bhattacharya, founder and CEO, Virtual Infocom, founder and chairman, World Leaders Summit. Before we begin the keynote presentation, I will share a short description about Dr. Justin Golston's bio. Dr. Justin Golston is a professor of project and supply chain management at Penn State University, where his research is focused on blending the practices of supply chain management, emerging technologies such as blockchain and artificial intelligence and sustainability to create positive global change. Golston is also the co-founder of SynTech, a blockchain startup that is looking to reinvent higher education with the Web3 way that will enable students from around the world to collaborate and build solutions centered around blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things, IoT. Outside of being a five-time TEDx speaker where he discussed blockchain and AI, Golston has over 20 years of experience consulting with organizations worldwide on enterprise-wide digital transformation initiatives. Without further ado, I would like to pass to Dr. Justin Golston to begin the keynote presentation. Dr. Justin, please.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and thank you all for taking a few moments out of your morning, out of your afternoon to join us. And I want to start off with this series of discussions on AI and blockchain, where we're going to first discuss about the convergence of blockchain and AI. And one thing I discuss a lot about is we're moving into this Web3 movement, in which I say, and some people refer to Web3 as only blockchain, but I think that Web3 is going to be the inclusion of blockchain, artificial intelligence, and the Internet of Things, right? And we're beginning to see it now in a number of industries, but in my opinion, we have not seen or realized the true use cases of Web3. I don't think that, and these are my opinions, I don't think that we've seen the true power of these tools. Another thing that I say is AI and blockchain are nothing but tools. They are not going to change the world. They are nothing but tools. And you're probably going to hear me say that about 5 or 6 times a night. You're probably going to hear me say it 5 or 6 times the next 2 weeks, right? Because I want to drill that home, because, there's so many people that I speak with in thinking that, AI and blockchain are going to be the silver bullet. You know what? They're going to be very important tools to change the world, but they're only tools. And another thing is that we need to democratize these tools and make these tools available for everyone. Now, from an AI perspective, Amazon in the US, Amazon and Netflix have leveraged AI to become some of the largest organizations in the world. And yes, some organizations, such as OpenAI, have leveraged AI and made it available for everyone. But I think that we need to also, not only do we need to democratize AI and blockchain, but we also need to democratize the education of those tools so that everyone can learn about those tools so that we can innovate in the world, right? So whenever I was going to create this presentation, I was going to create a PowerPoint and things like that. But when searching through LinkedIn, 101 Blockchains, which is one of my favorite, which is by far one of my favorites websites to go to. They had this one top 5 AI blockchain project. It was just published like this week. I think it was yesterday, if I'm not mistaken. So these are the top 5 blockchain AI projects in the current state. You know, you kind of have AI in this silo, and you have blockchain in this silo, but you know, the convergence of AI, blockchain, and IoT is going to be the utopia from a technology perspective, right? And the area in which I work in is in sustainability. And I always say that whenever you're looking at Web3, whenever you're looking at supply chain management, you always have to look at it from a systems thinking perspective. And whenever you're looking at Web3, it's all systems thinking, where you have to see how AI, blockchain, and the Internet of Things are interconnected. And you also have to see within your respective industry, how do those three tools provide interconnectivity within your industry as an investor for those areas which you're looking to invest in? How does Web3, are these three tools interconnect within those industries that you're focused on from an investment perspective? So whenever you're looking at those things, you know, that's one of the main things that I'm always looking at. But in terms of how some use cases, in terms of how AI and blockchain will converge, a big thing we're seeing within the blockchain space have been vulnerabilities. Some people call them hacks. They're vulnerabilities, right? The poly hack just happened, what, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, something like that. Over $600 million where it was taken out of a smart contract. And because of the people within the blockchain ecosystem, you know, the individual who extracted that money wanted to teach these people a lesson, so he or she returned it, right? But if you use blockchain, if you had this blockchain smart contract, this Ethereum smart contract, and you use artificial intelligence to learn from previous hacks, and once you create a smart contract, you could provide insights or recommendations of, maybe you should look at this, maybe you should look at this, maybe you should look at this, maybe you should look at this. So to provide recommendations on things that should be resolved before you deploy that smart contract on the blockchain. So because the blockchain is decentralized, once you deploy those contracts, there's no turning back, right? And that's good, that the risk is going to increase as we continue to progress. And if you're familiar with NFTs and non-fungible tokens, we're seeing a number of people rolling out smart contracts with no prior experience in rolling out these smart contracts. So you're going to begin to see a number of hacks because those smart contracts aren't being audited, right? And we, so at SIDTech, we identified an issue, a big issue in an NFT drop that used IPFS. We are rolling out an on-chain solution to address that issue. So our thing with SIDTech is that, you know, we're looking to build the world's largest incubator. We're bringing students from around the world to develop blockchain solutions. So that on-chain blockchain solution, we found the problem, we had students, we addressed it in a matter of weeks. Agility within this blockchain space, agility within this AI space is going to be of the utmost importance. It's moving too quickly. It's moving too quickly. And from a higher education perspective, there's not many academic peer-reviewed journal articles that are out there on these things. You know, I just wrote a peer-reviewed academic journal article for Springer, just submitted it to Springer last month on hybrid finance. Google hybrid finance and blockchain in Google Scholar. There's nothing out there. That's how quickly the space is moving. And Akala and Current are currently developing a hybrid finance platform on the blockchain. These solutions are out there, but there's no academic research centered around it. So that's where, you know, these technologies are coming together very quickly. They're converging very quickly, and we need to educate ourselves. We need to collaborate because the future is here. The Web3 future is here, and we need to work together from an academic perspective, from our SIDTech incubator perspective, and from an investor perspective, to democratize these tools to make the world a better place. Because yes, we can make our money, but we need to leverage AI for good. We need to leverage blockchain for good. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Dr. Justin. Allow me as the moderator for today's session to probe further into the presentation that you've made before bringing in the other distinguished panelists over to the panel discussion. Very good points indeed, Dr. Justin. Now, before we bring over the panelists, right, I've got a few questions for you based on your sharing. So I've got 3 questions for you, in fact, based on the slides that is being shared. But before that, for the benefit of most of the audience here who may be new to the concept of Web3, maybe if you could explain in layman terms what exactly is Web3. And we all know that it goes beyond internet. It's a new paradigm of connected technologies involving IoT, involving big data, involving AI, which run on a decentralized layer. But if you were to make it on the layman terms, right? Layman terms, how would you describe Web3, and why is it important for today's discussion?
Web3 is the decentralized internet. So in the U.S., you know, we have Amazon, well, not Amazon, but we have Google and we have Facebook controlling all the data. They own the data we put in the Google. They own the data we put in the Facebook. And my students say, well, shouldn't they let us know about that? They do let you know in the terms and conditions. You just don't read it, right? And the thing is, you know, you also have players like Apple. They say, I was just talking to my friend on the phone about this one thing. I go on Instagram and that thing shows up. Yeah, because it's listening to your data. You have structured and unstructured data that's going into these AI tools and it's outputting it in the Instagram. That's AI and ML, right? But because all that information is centralized and because they sell your data, and that's why you have that term that data is gold, right? So with Web3, instead of you signing into Google, and once you sign into Google, they know that all that search information is linked to you. With Web3, you use a wallet, there's no sign-in. Everything your data is not connected to Google, right? So if you share your data, you have to give people permission to share your data, and you monetize off of your data the way things should be.
That means you actually gain control over your data. You gain control about how it will be monetized, if ever, right? And you don't allow operators like Google to actually monetize and sell on your behalf or through you, correct?
That is correct. So the thing I always say is, you think Google's free? Nothing's free. How do you think Google's tools are so powerful? It's because of you, because they're selling your data. You know, but so once you go in, once you peel back the onion, then you actually realize this is a case. But the thing is, we're a long ways away from it because we've become so dependent upon Google, so dependent upon Instagram, so dependent upon LinkedIn. LinkedIn centralized too. If you go to LinkedIn, you get downgraded if you're talking about diversity and inclusion. You get downgraded if you're talking about gender equality. Because
sorry, that's very interesting. What do you mean downgraded when you speak about such issues?
So one of my close peers, the supply chain queen, Sherry Heinisch. If you look up Sherry Heinisch, there's a post that she tagged me on Saturday. She posted something about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and his March on Washington back in the 60s, right? But because it had to do with civil rights, because it had to do with Martin Luther King Jr., she can tell it got downgraded. She has tens of thousands of followers. Every time she posts something, she'll get 50 or 100 likes. But this one only got 5 or 6. If you go back to her history, the only views where she only has 5 or 6 likes has to do with gender equality, diversity, inclusion, or civil rights. Same thing happens with TikTok. It's centralized. So those things get downgraded. They use machine learning and artificial intelligence to identify those things that are touchy subjects, and the algorithm will downgrade them. Now, I will say, there are some things that should be downgraded, yes. But there are other things. Why are you downgrading diversity and inclusion? Why are you downgrading, climate change or something? They're not downgrading climate. I'm just saying, for example, because it's centralized. In Web3, if you say something controversial, you say something about women's rights that's negative, you get slashed. Slash means if you're on a particular platform like Brave, and you hold a certain amount of tokens, Brave within their governance structure can slash your tokens that you hold, or you get some kind of a mark on your profile to say he had a racial statement. He had a statement he had a negative statement that the decentralized autonomous organization, or the DAO, said was negative by the community, by the people, not by 2 or 3 people, by the people, by the collective group. They found that this statement was negative. That's why this person got slashed. It's decentralized. It's ran by the people. So you can't have someone, like going back to the U.S. whenever they had the insurgents on Washington D.C., right? You can't have 1,000 people that supported that go in and say, oh, that's fine. No, everything is decentralized. So if someone would have posted something about that, you can have a vote on the DAO or using that organization's governance structure, and you can say whether or not that is good to post or whether or not that person gets slashed. That's Web3. Does that still make sense?
Absolutely, and it provides a very provoking, intriguing perspectives about how data is being exploited, if you like, when it's centralized versus decentralized. So very well said and very, very thought-provoking indeed, Dr. Justine. Now let's bring in the panelists. I've got 3 questions for you on your presentation, but I will weave it into the panel discussion along the way. Yeah. So for this panel discussion, we have several distinguished panelists in the form of Arijit, who is celebrating his birthday today. I have to announce it. I have to extend my appreciation to you for waking up very early in the morning on your birthday to basically share your time and expertise with the audience. Arijit, hi, how are you? He's a serial entrepreneur, very big on gaming and various other technology-based industries such as AI. I would love to hear how he deployed blockchain in all of his firm or his gaming business, or even other the non-gaming business aspects. Yeah. So we have Arijit, perhaps to comment about how blockchain and AI technologies has evolved since 5 years ago. I mean, you've been in this game for a while. You've been applying this in your businesses somewhat in a big way because of your huge data bank of images, storyboards, personality profiling, and amongst others. So would love to hear from that perspective. Yeah. And of course, we also have Oliver, He's an expert in robotics, assistive robotics practices, and he's the president. He's the advisor to the association in Singapore that basically looks at the promulgation and application of robotics, not just in Singapore but various industries are all around the region. So we would love to hear how AI and blockchain is being applied in the context of robotics, in the context of manufacturing, for example, in the context of things that requires mechanization of things. How would AI or blockchain appeal to such practices? Yeah. So again, we are curious to hear how he has seen over the last 5 years such technologies has evolved and whether it has matured to the extent that robotics is going to adopt a lot of blockchain-based technology into it. Yeah. And we, last but not least, we have the rose amongst the thorns, right? Farah, from a venture capital perspective, how do you see AI and blockchain being an investable set of projects for you to consider, for you to review, and how would you have viewed such investment deals 5 years ago versus now? Whether you are less whether you think it's less risky, whether you think it's more established, such that venture capitalists like yourselves would be happy to look further into it, would be a major part of your portfolio, would be something that you look at it as a highly attractive investment opportunity. So we have quite a diverse perspectives from everyone. So with this panel discussion, I would like to invite perhaps Arijit to start off with the view on whether and how blockchain and AI, what we call BC AI, right, has evolved since 5 years ago till now. Are people more accepting and understanding the applications of BC and AI, or are they becoming more skeptical? Let's start with something macro to leverage further on what Dr. Justin has said. Over to you, Arijit.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the beautiful wish, my friend. And happy to be here, of course, with all the distinguished panelists. Well, I'll take you back probably with the starting days of Virtual Infocom. When we started in 1998, we started utilizing game development, of course, as you know, as the world knows. Probably artificial intelligence structure has been started by the gaming guys long back, probably I was a kid in US itself. So when we talk about artificial intelligence and the use of AI into the technologies like gaming, we are using it for last 2 decades, and the kind of difference and the kind of structural difference that we have seen so far is phenomenal. In earlier times, we used to use a different kind of engine, which has got a limited amount of flexibility utilizing the artificial intelligence. But if we talk about the last 5 years, the evolvement of all those engines and the kind of technology that has been upgraded and uplifted is really massive. I'll probably give you a live example how we take care of real actor and actress. So the kind of technology that we created in our farm, we can easily simulate any actor or actress who is there in the real life doing their own acting and converting them into a digital 3D character, and we make them as happen everywhere inside our game. They can fight, they can talk, they can walk, they can jump, but all these segments are exactly looks like the person in real life. So what we do, we usually take care of 360-degree picture of a person, and then the AI calculate the way they move, their social structure, and of course, the way they usually act in the movies, simulate all those kind of stuff, integrate them into a system, and then we have the exact 3D digital character who is ready to walk, move, talk, act, do anything. That's number one perspective. Now, if we talk about blockchain, the way we are using it, of course, we are safeguarding all our data, all our documentation, utilizing all those encryption, and blockchain is one of the best. But I would love to take one line of statement. Probably we are now talking about blockchain or AI, but in every case, in every industry implementation, if we look at healthcare or probably agriculture, AI has been used in a very soft tone Probably we don't talk a lot about that. Okay, fine, artificial intelligence is being used over there. We haven't probably talked that, okay, you know what, the AI is there, but it was there and it is there. And the evolvement that happened in last 5 years, we have seen growth of VR glasses. We are now watching augmented reality glasses, which is being used. We are now watching our smartwatch, which is becoming more and more smart, connecting the dots with the blockchain technology in the backend, securing all those prototypes, of course, with all our data. But I would love to make one statement in this case. When we talk about security, when we talk about AI, this goes hand in hand. We cannot, nowadays, we cannot differentiate between it. Would love to, quote from Dr. Justin. It is true. Nowadays, if we go for social media post, it is so much calculated in the background algorithm, the kind of communication that we are doing, depending on the communication, the words, it is either being uplifted or it is downgraded. So there is a fine tune. Last statement from my speech. We need to fine tune the way we speak in social media if you really want to get upgradation in social media. Human mind neurons are far better than the machine algorithm. We are creating it. So there is a way, probably I can teach in a workshop if you want. There is a way of writing those words wherein the machine algorithm can be bypassed and your post can be uplifted without hesitation, and using all those words that you want to put in social media, in any other particular media. Last but not the least, the future is coming in a complete different way, where we will be seeing a lot of different virtual reality platforms which is coming up. And during the COVID, we have seen so many 3D platforms giving us an option and opportunity to do real life handshake utilizing 3D avatar. And that's going to stay, that's going to happen, and it's going to have all those kind of artificial intelligence in the background. And kudos to AI that we are able to get all those sophisticated data which we didn't used to get in earlier times. And to be very honest, that's going to stay and that's going to rock the world like anything. Thank you.
No, I believe Arijit, when he said that he can actually, you can actually craft certain keywords, certain, and I know this is beyond SEO because I've seen his posts shooting up in the thousands of likes in LinkedIn, just by, producing or showcasing something simple, nothing complicated, right? And I don't think he boosted that post, so it's very organic. So we would love, like Dr. Justin and I will be the first to sign up for your workshop on how to phrase and how to deceive or exploit, the social media algorithms that are out there. So, but really compelling indeed. Beyond that, we know that you have been using AI and blockchain pretty much in your, gaming business, especially, right? So maybe you could just give a quick 1 minute, perspective on how the AI and blockchain is being planted with regards to the characterization of your gaming solutions and your gaming storyboard. Just briefly, so that we can take it forward to the next panelist, because you have a host of characters, you have a large storyboard, you have the personalities being built for each character, correct? So could you give us a specific example on how AI and blockchain are being applied into those gaming characters?
Of course, why not? Okay, so allow me to share my screen. I'll share you probably a super cool character which you can probably watch and understand.
That'd be great.
It.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll give you one picture. So this is the person who is India's first superhero. It was a TV series when I was a kid, and I had a dream that I'll be someday working with him, maybe in some project. So when I started my company, after 10 years, I approached him that, can we create a character just look like you and probably make the character Shaktiman in as into our games. After so much of discussion, he said, okay, fine, but I became old now. I'm in my 70s. I cannot act like the way I used to do. This is his earlier picture, how he used to look like in reality. So what we did, then I'll show you the process. Okay, so we made him like him, this. So there is no, okay, if you look at this character, at 70s, we made him look like he's 35, 40s. Now, how we achieve this? This is not, I shouldn't say this, but it's not so easy. Calculating and understanding someone's face and then making it happen in his younger age, which is like around 40 years back or probably 30 years back, we actually did a massive amount of algorithm calculation. And the system that we created, it can generate any character, build the muscle the way it used to be in earlier times, enhance it, and then make a complete 3D character out of it, and then put that same thing into a complete secure block so that anybody can actually have this character, have the license, use that into their own game or own characterization. Because my speech is limited to gaming, I'll stick to that. So this is where we are actually using it in a practical note. I can show you more examples. Let me give you another live example. Probably that will interest a lot of people.
So you essentially build the blocks of data or information and graphics, right? Animation into a particular character for people to tap onto it, yeah?
Yeah. So in Zoom, in Zoom, I'm unable to share both the picture. But if you really want to compare the earlier face of the real gentleman, and if you look at this 3D character, this is of course a little bit of enhanced on the muscle, on the body type. But if you look at the expression, if you look at his movement, I'm not showing any video because I'm not ready with that. But yeah, of course, maybe next time I'll show it. So these things can be very easily achievable if you have an understanding how you can write the algorithm in AI and then pre-calculate and then post-calculate and then post-process your rendering. So you are actually using AI into two different processes. One, in your pre-production mode, where this is calculating the character, the volume, the structure of the character, and in the post-production process, once your character is ready and built, to give it a real-time shot so that it calculates the way he used to walk, the way he used to do the action, and the way he used to do all those kind of activities in the TV series. It's really not easy because we couldn't record his movement now. He is old. Very less amount of data was available in internet. We just did his usual normal walk and then we enhanced it in such a way utilizing an algorithm that we created so that it looks like the earlier days TV series based gaming. So in AI, the one-liner answer, anything is possible. If you have the brain set, if you have the desire, almost anything is possible. And I'm watching a lot of investment is actually happening because in any of these startups who have started their venture, once they are using AI as a solution, immediately the investors got a different level of attraction. I guess our friend is more than capable to share all those details, but I am watching this as an angel investor for, I think, so many years. And in last 2 years, guys, I have seen a lot more investment actually happen because the company uses AI in the backend that actually minimizes and optimizes their process and their activity. It saves time, cost, and money. So as an investment guy, like if you really want to become an angel investor, it's a win-win situation. You save time when you use technology, and technology is always an enabler. It will always act as a catalyst. It's not an individual industry. It is everywhere. So nowadays, we really can't differentiate between a game development technology or a VR with the real industry implementation. Nowadays, we have been watching either in electronics industry or large robotics industry, AI is being used almost everywhere.
Thank you so much, Arijit. Before we bring in Oliver, right, to the from animation to robotics, I would love to connect what Dr. Justin has shared briefly, actually earlier on the blockchain incubators, right? Arijit mentioned about how blended or hybrid technologies like what he has mentioned can attract higher valuation, and this will be connected to Farah's comments later on. But you mentioned about your incubators, the blockchain incubators that looks at cooking and creating and consolidating all the different types of blockchain technologies into perhaps near commercialization status. Perhaps you can give a quick comment before I move on to the robotics side of things.
Yeah, so with our program with SidTech, we're initially we're building on the Polkadot blockchain, but given the boom of non-fungible tokens and NFTs, we have went into Solidity development and ETH scaffold. So we're in Ethereum, on the Ethereum blockchain as well. So what we've been finding is based on the use case, different blockchains are going to be applicable. So some students are within the Ethereum and Solidity group. They're team Ethereum, right? Some students are team Polkadot. Some students are team Solana. Because of the recent developments, with smart contracts, some people are team Cardano because they've been investing in Cardano for so many years, waiting for these smart contracts to come out. So we're not. We still believe that the cross-chain capability of Polkadot is going to bring all these blockchains together, but we're going to need developers on Solana. We're going to need developers on Cardano. We're going to need developers in Solidity. So we're creating that just how we create cross-functional teams in the industry. We're creating cross-chain teams in the blockchain, right? So again, depending upon the use case in the industry, you're going to need a different blockchain solution, right? So that's what we're doing, and we're bringing together students from healthcare, to bring in people. We're going to bring in healthcare students to collaborate with finance students. We're bringing in computer science students so they can develop a financial platform for healthcare. Right, you're bringing in supply chain students to work with finance students and computer science students to create a DeFi platform for small organizations who can't get loans. Just how we're creating DeFi platforms for people, and that so we have a platform now called GEMACH.io, where we're doing interest-free loans. We're primarily focused on people in Africa who can't get a loan. One, who can't get a loan. Two, who don't trust the banks because of corruption. Right. So now we are transferring that, removing that to small and medium organizations who can't get loans. So if you are a holder of Ethereum, when it was under $100, and you have a lot of Ethereum, you don't want to get rid of your Ethereum, you can actually leverage that DeFi platform to you can fund yourself. Once you start generating revenue, get your Ethereum back. Right, that's the doors that DeFi is going to open for so many people and so many businesses, so many startups. And the thing is, I get passionate about this, so I'm going to warn you. Okay, this thing is going to change the world. This thing is going to change the world. And one thing that so if you look up Acala, ACALA, phenomenal team. I've spoke with that team a couple of times, and Rutao Su is one of the co-founders of Acala. And he says, how is it fair that I have to go to the bank where I have my money and get permission to get my money out? Well, I have to go to the bank to get permission to get a loan that I've been banking at for 20 years. Why do I have to wait till Monday to go to the bank where I have my money if I need money on Saturday? That's where DeFi is going to change the game.
Very good. Very, once again, thought-provoking inputs from Justine and Arijit. Now, Oliver, from gaming, from financial inclusivity into robotics now, how has blockchain actually, or blockchain AI evolved in the last 5 years that you've been seeing right now in your field of work? And what sort of use cases you think can be applied for robotic projects that you're handling right now? Would love to hear your input, Oliver. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Nasri, and it's really great to be part of this panel. Actually, just in the past half an hour itself, I've learned so much from our two experts in their sharing. I would look at AI and blockchain as two very important twins that are probably coming together, and each of them provide a separate set of values that coming together will result in a extended contribution to what society needs. I guess I won't go into defining what AI or blockchain are, but I will put it to you that simply, in my perspective, AI is human possibilities, right? If you have AI, it has the capability to augment what you're doing and what you potentially want to do and make things possible. And today, if you look at how AI has been applied in many instances, whether it is in credit scoring for the bank, whether it's in the medical application for care, and so on and so forth, it has extended the human capability in many ways. However, having said that, Dr. Justine brought up a very interesting point, and that is the issue of trust, right? Who are we to say, or who are the few individuals to say that, you know, your command is not suitable for public consumption, right? Who are the few individuals in these commercial entities to downgrade or uplift anyone's views or comments, right? The public, the entire population, the entire society has a right to express their views, to listen to what you're saying, right? So AI today carries one shortcoming, and that is trustworthy AI. How do we ensure that any possibility that's created by this technology brings together or comes together with the trust element? And guess what, my friends? Blockchain. Blockchain sits in that space where, having started from the financial sector, enables a network of capability to assure you that there is trust in anything that's been put together, right? Everybody has a part of the pie. Everybody can authenticate and validate what the information that's been put together. So that combination, that convergence of AI and blockchain gives us an extremely powerful combination that is going to extend the possibilities with trust in a very far way. And of course, AI can also complement blockchain by providing the capability of machine learning, the ability to figure out and analyze and generate good insights from the data that is collected. And that is great value for blockchain. So to me, as I've stated in the beginning, right, they are an inseparable twin that came together by chance. It wasn't born that way, but if we look at how we're moving forward, AI has got a problem of biasness and trust. Blockchain secures that. And on the other hand, blockchain has got so much data that's collected. How can we then utilize that information and provide good insights that can eventually support the demand industry, the people using it? So having said that, right, and I guess we are talking about good examples. The social media is one great example, right? If now I post some content on social media, and some pseudo god out there is going to say it's not suitable, but who is he to say it's suitable or not suitable? As long as I can provide a blockchain connection to show that this has been accepted, the participants of social media trust the information, and there is the mechanism, the consensus mechanism that provides that proof of work or proof of evidence that is taking place, right? So this is all happening today. Slowly and surely, we can enable that. Of course, Dr. Justin and probably Arijit also alluded to the fact that there's a chance that we can ensure that the algorithm do not have this trick bias, right? That's way we can get around it. But having said that, we can also leverage on blockchain to support that and enable the trust in AI solutions. So in a mix of all this, one very important factor comes up. How do we ensure that the population is educated enough to understand, right, what AI can contribute and can offer, what blockchain can offer, and how they can eventually benefit from the right use of these two very powerful technology. I like Dr. Justin's comment, right? AI is not your solution to everything, but AI is a tool, and we need to know when we can leverage this tool. And in the robotics and AI world, we talk about, number one, being unaware about AI, and how do you transfer that into being aware about AI and the possible application into a state where you are ready to adopt good functionalities and use of AI, and finally to become AI competent, right? So if I look at that 4 levels of how we can educate the society, the folks on this level of competency, I'm sure if we do a quick survey and poll, the latter half, the lower half between AI unaware and aware would have a large number of summations. Going up the scale to AI ready, not many can claim that. And I guess a small percentage will claim that they're AI competent. And with that in mind, we are then left to the mercy of the few pseudo gods who tell us what to do and what not to do. The goal that I think all of us should work towards, and I like the offer that Arijit is giving, is let's do a workshop, let's educate, right? And Dr. Justin has got lots of content, lots of information, let's educate. And Apara, as an organization, tries to do that. And that's the reason why we run our event called Airbotics, AI in Robotics, to tell people, to tell the world, to bring technology together to the users. And eventually, what we hope to produce is what I call an AI-powered user. Users who know enough about AI, aware, and hopefully ready to consume and make the best of AI in their work environment. Maybe I leave that discussion as that, right? So AI equals to human possibility, blockchain equals to human trust. Putting those two together, I think, is a very powerful combination. Back to you, Nasri.
Wonderful. I like the way, Oliver, you tackle the root or the crux of the matter by looking at the integrity of data and integrity of the algorithms first, before even talking about the advancements of the technology. So Oliver brought up a very important point, which is trustworthy AI. Even, you know, and blockchain is means to address that part. And to me, I like to bring up the issue of the black box, right? So when you have a blockchain that is very transparent, very open, very distributed, and it becomes explainable in that sense. So the issue of black box is somewhat reduced, right? Especially for the technology, the technology side of things. But the layman, right, still have to grapple with the issue that's brought up by Dr. Justin's slides, because we talk about transparencies. Okay, you're looking for an open black box, right? A non-black box setting. You're looking for trustworthy AI. You're looking for explainable AI. You're looking for algorithms and data that is very transparent to all. So which means that transparencies would be something that you equate to being trustworthy. You know, I know it's very linear at this point in time, but let me just control the variables, right? Transparency is somewhat linked to trustworthy, and transparency was brought up by the earlier speaker, right? The speakers, and when we talk about transparency, we have to balance it with vulnerabilities. So, what is the right balance, do you think, between transparency versus vulnerabilities when you have, open data, that is accessible to all or explorable by all, and yet controlled in a certain format or structure? How do you ensure that vulnerabilities are not seeping in to pursue the cause of transparency and trustworthiness? Maybe Oliver, you can comment on this, and Dr. Justin and Arijit could also balance up the views between transparency versus vulnerabilities. A minute each, perhaps, very quickly before we move on to Farah. Okay, but maybe starting with Oliver.
Sure, sure. I think that's a very important discussion, right? The part about black box. There is a movement around responsible technology. In fact, I've just been invited by the University of Oxford to be part of the advisory team for this initiative endorsed by the British Parliament called the
Wow.
Responsible Technology Institute.
Okay.
And this is key because the whole aspect of transparency is not just in the outcome or the output that you produce. It has to go all the way back to the conceptualization, the thought around what we want to create, right? And then into the design. So it's not just a developer who's putting together the algorithm, it's the intention of how it's being built. So the entire design of the AI application, robotic application must be covered. IEEE last year announced a methodology called the ethically aligned design for the electronic space. And that's actually very powerful because it shows what should be considered right from the start. Then let me introduce another thought, right? There is a group that's looking at ethical intelligence. And what this group does, this is initiated out of UK and headquartered in Belgium, where they look at if we can audit accounting practices, can we not audit AI applications? Now that's going to be interesting, right? So this is where your trustworthiness, your transparency comes in. Can an independent party come into your organization and look at your AI application and say, these are my observations? But of course, there must be credential in this party to be able to do that. So the AI audit part is key. There are a number of case studies in UK and Belgium. They're starting to move into the US to look at companies who say, I've got AI, how do I communicate that transparency, that authenticity to my users? And here you have a group of professionals who can come in and perform the necessary audit to give that rubber stamp to say, this is truly acceptable and transparent. Now, I can go into a lot more discussion around this, but I think my 1 minute is up. Back to you, Nasri.
Wow, there should be a specific webinar just on trustworthy, explainable, and responsible AI. Congratulations on your appointment by Oxford University on your role. I look forward to you sharing that with the rest of the audience in subsequent webinars and discussions and dialogues. Dr. Justin, Arijit, your thoughts on what has been commented by Oliver in the context of transparency versus vulnerability. I mean, when you open up so much, aren't you like open yourself up to a lot of vulnerabilities as a result of trying to be trustworthy and trying to be transparent? What are your thoughts on it?
I would say that that's where the combination of AI and blockchain is going to come in this and come into play. And whenever we talk about AI, one thing that I always talk about. So I'm actually writing a book called AI for Good. That's going to be focused on the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And one thing I'm proposing is that we need to develop a diverse team of AI developers. I propose that because we all have intentional and unintentional biases. We all do, regardless of race, background. We all do. Let's be real. And I say that we need to have a diverse team of AI developers. Not only that, but also you need to have a diverse team of reviewers of that code to have a consensus based approval process before those algorithms get rolled out. I think that might be ways that you reduce the risk of bias. But in terms of transparency, that's where I think blockchain is going to provide transparency on that, because I call a blockchain a trust machine, where I come from the supply chain industry. I don't trust anybody. So the blockchain is going to validate that those people are indeed acting ethically. They indeed don't have forced labor. They indeed don't have child labor. They indeed are sourcing from sustainable sources, right? So whenever you say exposing to vulnerabilities, I think it depends on the use case. I think it depends on the industry. All right, thanks.
Thanks. Arijit, are you afraid that people will steal or abuse your characters and turn them into something less desirable images, an exploitation of women, for example, through your gaming characters? How do you balance between making it available to others and managing the vulnerabilities as a use case?
Okay, so interesting question. I'll first take it on the gaming perspective, and then probably I will give a short answer about the industry perspective, both, if I'm allowed and okay to do that. Okay, so once we are talking about the gaming characters, of course, anywhere in the globe, anybody, if they want to replicate our characters, we can actually trace it. That's the first thing that I would love to share with all the audience and all the people. Now, kindly don't ask me why and how. We, of course, created something which enables us to understand where our characters are being used, whether it's a bot or whether it's hidden in some dark web. It doesn't matter, we can track. I think that should be the way to protect your digital asset. If you're really keen to do that, it's not a rocket science. It can be done using various different technology. But I agree completely with both of my panelists regarding creating the ethical algorithm. Development is not the big challenge. Big challenge is to create the process, how ethical the algorithm would be to get data. But at the same time, Nazri, why don't we follow the rule which a lot of startups nowadays are doing? It's interesting that there are platforms being created where once you see the ad, you also make money. For an example, as an audience, if we are watching any ad, there are platforms being used and being created where as a user, we can also make money while watching the ads, which is popped up into our screen. And if we really go deep, please don't mind if I'm making this statement. Well, we are talking a lot about Google, Facebook showing ads into our browsers. And there is a lot of talk going on that there are privacy enabled browser that is coming up. There are privacy protected chat applications that is coming up. I don't believe in those kind of privacy protected chat applications. There is nothing which you can actually protect and save. And in today's connected world, to be very honest, it's really alarming that all our data is open to the entire world. We are actually doing it. It's not happening from probably Google or Facebook. What happens when we take a picture with our family and say that, hey, we are enjoying in Hawaii, and a thief can actually understand, okay, these guys are enjoying in Hawaii. This is the right time to go to Singapore and then break the house and probably get some kind of jewelry and money from their home itself. Where does AI will help over there? Yes, there is an option. Well, as a user, I think this is my humble suggestion to everyone. Probably as a community of all of us, we should start educating people on robotics, on blockchain, on AI, or probably on VR, maybe on gaming as well, because I have seen a lot of suicide that happened just because kids wanted to buy digital asset. And once they couldn't do it, they took a very different path, which is not at all advisable. So the kind of game or kind of application, because my speech is actually stick to the gaming. So the kind of game that is being used and being uploaded and utilized in a lot of different various cases, to be very honest, if kids are using it, I think we need to look back on the kind of activity that we want to give to our users before launching it to the market. If we have that kind of hardcore desire, we have created probably a first-person shooting game or maybe a third-person shooting game where a lot of bloods are actually being used inside a game, and we are pushing user to buy an element with probably money, and a kid is playing that. I think there is option. There are opportunities nowadays, whether you can track it or not track it. You can understand whether a kid is playing or a mature person is playing. You can track the fingers, you can track the 5 fingers on your screen and can understand whether it's an adult person or it's a kid. If it's a kid, I think from the perspective of developer or good developer, we should stop giving them option to buy on real money, so that they stop playing all those kind of games which they shouldn't play at the age of 12 or 13, so that we can probably safeguard a lot of life. And that's alarming. It's happening day in and day out worldwide. I think as an industry, we should address that, track it, and then implement it.
Wonderful, Arjit. Certainly very profound insights by the 3 gentlemen so far, Oliver, Dr. Justin, and Arjit yourself. And let's bring over the discussion points to a venture capital or venture builder point of view. Farah, we save the best for last for you. Farah, after listening and hearing and exchanging so much useful information, how do you view the investabilities of such technologies compared to 5 years ago till now, and how would you basically evaluate their funding pitch, assuming these 3 are young startups, which they are not. Imagine these are fresh people into the industry, which they are not, right? But imagine if they were to pitch to you from a BC versus AI kind of investment deal. In simple layman terms, what would investors like yourselves look for when it comes to the scalability and the issues that are being highlighted by the speakers? Over to you, Farah.
Thank you so much, Najri. And it is indeed an honor and privilege to be amongst all the experts in the industry. I am still very much learning myself every day. And I'm just going to have a very simple approach because I'm not exactly an expert on blockchain or AI per se. But when I think of AI, I would probably think of data and the engine that is processing, the brain that is processing the data and turning them into decisions or conclusions or insights that can be used for better investment decision making. And when I think of blockchain, I will think about like an architecture or a house that can place these data or these encrypted data where they belong and in sequence. So when I think of blockchain in very simple layman terms, it is like a distributed ledger, immutable, you can't change it, and it's also decentralized. So in the okay, going back to your first, the third question is that the differences between the pitch decks between the blockchain companies and the AI companies, and what are the things that we look for. Okay, before coming in this session just now, I had a look at the VentureBeat's website where they say that by 2025, 75% of venture capital will be using AI in their investment decision making. Yeah, and then we also go back to Filori.com to see the pitch decks from the blockchain startups and the AI startups. And what I can see, the differences between these two, these two entities. This one are the startups in the blockchain. This one is a startup in the AI. Most of the AI startups, they are able to go into diverse sectors. They can go into healthcare, AI, education, all sorts. Yeah? But most of the blockchain, they are mostly how do you say, concentrated towards payment solutions, data security, and data integrity. I'm not saying that blockchain cannot do what AI can do, or AI cannot complement each other, but in fact, they are very good together. And this actually, they have a very good article in the BBVA Open Mind. I think it's by Ahmed Bafana. There's actually 5 places where you can actually use AI and blockchain together, or even more actually. There's a smart computing power, and then there's also creating diverse data sets. There's data protection, data monetization, and trusting AI decision making. And coming back also to your earlier question, how trustworthy is this AI decision making? Because there's someone who said that it will be going towards platform-based decision making, more quantitative. Right. Let me just double check on that. Gartner predicts that by 2025, VCs will use 75% of AI. 75% of VCs will use AI in our decision making. Take a platform-based quantitative approach, and maybe moving away from the gut feel and qualitative approach. But I think it's not a good thing to actually exclude the gut feel and qualitative approach, because when you see the team in action, you can actually how do you say, assess the level of harmony in execution, their ability to deploy a certain project, and sometimes and also the relationship of how well the team work together. So that is also very important in the running of a company. Okay, in terms of use cases for AI, I think I love the point that Dr. Justin Goldston said, that he's from the supply chain industry, he doesn't trust anyone. And we also had the opportunity to go into late last year there was some gloves trading. There's a lot of things that we need to verify before we go into international trade and exports, especially on the documentation side. So we have things like we want to verify the the LOI, the proof of funds, and then the IMFPA, the NCNDA. All those agreements has to be in place, and blockchain does a fantastic job in actually helping to verify the validity and also the originality of all those documents being in place. And AI helps to actually also verify in the sense of the integrity of the people involved in that transaction, especially in terms of eKYC and AML. So I love the fact that some companies use AI in eKYC and AML, especially like Jumio and Comply Advance, because it also helps to lessen the fraud in the business. So these are very important things. Other use cases for AI is in the financial sector, where it helps us to process information in a very timely manner, because it's a lot of information that the investment personnel has to sieve through, and AI enables for a very effective decision making. And for AI for healthcare, there will be the patient current information will help the doctors to arrive to a correct prognosis. And AI for commerce will identify the client data and geography of clients, what are the ones that are in higher demand. And the last one, not least, actually it's not the last one, it's one of the very few, AI regulating international trade and cross-border trade to verify counterparty for investment and trading purposes. And practical use cases for blockchain technology, I like this one. Blockchain-powered document management, DocFlow. You can access it at pixelplex.io. So these are to actually verify legal documents. So backtracking a bit, the progression of AI since 5 or 6 years ago has come a long way. when we first met at the KLCC Convention Center, we were talking about the lawyers adopting AI into their legal documents, because when you have AI, when you have the blockchain, when you put all the documents there, it's easier for the audit trail. It's easier to verify how a certain decision has been arrived at. You can go back there and see, oh, at this level, this decision has been made, and then it goes to the next one, it goes to the next one. So at the end of the day, you can track back what has happened and why it happened also. The other use cases for blockchain when I see is that they use it a lot for cryptocurrency, trust wallet, and the other day we had the privilege and honor to also interview someone from Prescript. So they have also diversified into enabling cryptocurrency for e-commerce as a mode of payment. So I think that's all for me for now. I hope it answers your question. Thank you.
Yes, indeed, Farah. As always, I always look on you for structured and very segmented responses and a very holistic way beyond one or two specific areas. Yeah. So apparently, the blended form of technologies that are very scalable appeal to firms like your good self. And we are very happy to have you here to share your perspectives from a unique, point of view, which is from the purely financial and strategic investment point of view. So thank you so much, Farah, for that. Now we have two questions from the floor, and I know that Arijit is going to answer one of the question, and I'm sure the rest would answer too, and as well as Oliver has something to share on the second question on how this is being used for infrastructure type of business. Maybe one question from Abdul Hamid. Abdullah, Arijit, would you like to answer, since you say you're going to answer this live, right? Followed by Justine or Dr. Justine or Oliver. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Of course, there is a regulation that is coming up, and to be very, very precise on your question, if you are using blockchain, you really don't need to worry about all those kind of misuse of data, to be very honest. It is precise, not very speculated like a normal open web. But when we look at the structural diagram of misuse of data, to be very honest, if you get a data in a human hand, it depends on their own mind how they want to use it. Now, if we look back to the system, the machine, of course, the way it has been designed, a new regulation is coming up. And I would love to quote from Dr. Justine as well, the decentralized system where the world is actually moving. It's the future. Now, when you look at that future, you need to understand there are a lot of rules and regulation and laws which is going to come up very soon. So I sit as an advisor to our Industry 4.0 into our government panel. So there are specific industry people which government and a lot of government, they are actually taking on board so that they can regulate, understand, and create a policy out of it for the common people. Now, to answer your direct question, yes, there are regulations which is coming up. To give you a direct answer, can data be misused? Even though if you regulate, if a human mind have a different kind of black thought, no one can save it. So it depends on the person, whether you regulate or not regulate. If they want to misuse the data, it can be misused. There is no lock in the world which has got a secure key. How much security we give, there will be flaws and there will be new solution. So the only solution for all these kind of aspects is to upgrade ourselves, update, and implement that.
Thank you, Arijit. Dr. Justin, I'm sure you'll agree that there's no foolproof measures or standards that can cover all aspects, in terms of the security and reliability as mentioned by Arijit. So if that's the case, what should regulators look for in pursuant to Hamid's question, right? If there's legislation that is not foolproof, that is not, leakable or, exploitable, then what should regulators be prepared for when it comes to taking a more proactive approach? You can't have everything, but what can you have to control or suppress certain issues from surfacing and destroying, this whole offering to the public?
All right, I have a proposal, and I have a statement, and I have a proposed solution that you may think this sounds crazy, but just think about it. All right. So the European Union just rolled out the global data reporting, GDPR. So GDPR, I can never say it, global data protection regulation. They rolled that out a few years ago, and one individual from the Obama administration, was asked a question of, do you think the U.S. can implement GDPR? And her response was that, pretty much to sum it up, to say GDPR is not strong enough for the U.S. Right? I'm summarizing it. That's what she said. Right? But I think that but at least they have something. The U.S. has nothing. Right? So why don't you create a global standard such as GDPR that could be implemented by everyone, that's standardized by everyone? Because a lot of organizations within the US are multinational corporations. If it's standardized, if you have something like GDPR that's standardized against across the US and in the EU, it's a whole lot easier to implement, right? Because GDPR versus US regulations, it's like the opposite. It's like the opt-in and opt-out is completely the opposite, right? So that gets a little hairy with people. So, I think that, another thing is, I idolize Elon Musk, right? And Elon Musk is not a fan of the government. But whenever it comes to AI, even Elon Musk says the government needs to look at this and regulate this. If Elon says that, people need to listen, in my opinion, right? Because just like Arjit said, whenever this technology gets into the wrong hands, that's my greatest fear. Someone from Google gets upset, they can wreak havoc. They can wreak havoc. One of these brilliant programmers gets upset by Google, Facebook, Amazon, they can wreak havoc. That's my biggest fear. Right. So the thing is, I think the government has to regulate this, but it's moving so quickly. It's like the crypto space in the US. My opinion, they're chasing the wrong thing. They're chasing the wrong thing in the US when it comes to crypto. Right. So with SITTech, whenever we actually shared first place at a pitch competition. And one of the questions from the investors was, okay, what are you going to do about because this was like, we did a pitch whenever DC was trying to figure out how to regulate this stuff. They're like, how are you going to deal with government regulation? I said, our primary market is higher education institutions. We're working with the government. We're creating a DAO to show the government that DAOs can work. So although people in the blockchain space, in the crypto space, want to blackball me, I'm saving you all. You're welcome. Think about it. In the case of crypto, the government sees crypto as bad. But if I'm lobbying how crypto can make a positive impact on the world, there's a small chance that they may think it's good, right? So that's the one thing, and I think that I think there needs to be some regulation, and there's some unknowns with this whole AI space. It can be. I think that Stephen Hawking said AI can be the greatest invention, or it can be the end of the world, something like that. You can look it up. You can look at the correct quote.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a very interesting discussion. we spend a fair bit of time on the use cases, applications, the divergence and the convergence of AI versus blockchain, but as always, it will gravitate towards the issue of trust that is brought up by Oliver and the rest of you. And then Oliver did mention over text in response to a second question where a participant brought up about the issue of, are we trying to live in a perfect world? The previous participant was talking about, should we put in more regulators? Are there regulations? Are there standards, that we can follow and to control any wrongdoings, etc.? So, Oliver mentioned in text that that some, it's not foolproof. There's more to be done, right? And there's a lot of discussion on accuracy of trust, for example, and maybe Oliver, you can extend whatever you just said about there has to be some degree of accuracy and trust. There must be efforts towards it. There is still more that can be done. It will not be a perfect, situation, right? And you feel that AI and BC can fill this gap, although not perfect, as asserted by Dr. Justin and Arjit. So I think that's the best answer we can come up at this point in time, right? Then Oliver did mention that this is a decision that we humans need to make and adjust from time to time. So adaptability and flexibility to suit the evolution, the changes in risk dynamics is certainly key. So I'm just trying to simplify the conversation in such a way that the general audience can understand the key points that are being said here. And important point that Oliver raised is that total transparency may not what we want. Do we? Do we really want total transparency and deal with the vulnerabilities that come along with it? So this is extremely debatable. And while regulators want total transparency, but do the people want that? Any comments from Farah? Do you want total transparency about what you do, about your life, about your purchases, about your investments? Would this something be, appealing to you? How would you react to that, Farah?
Well, I think in businesses, some parts of the business is trade secret, you see, and we are all in a competitive landscape. So some information has to be guarded, and of course, and some information are private and it's not supposed to be distributed and not supposed to be made available to just about anyone, because sometimes some people can actually manipulate those data and use it against you. So I think it's very important to have a certain degree of privacy and also security in terms of data integrity. Yeah.
Very good. We have the last 5 minutes across all the four distinguished panelists. I just want to summarize by saying that at the end of the day, there is a convergence. This is where AI and BC really got together in one common topic that dominates this discussion, which is how trustworthy, how reliable. And Wai Kong, from one of the members in the audience, said about not just trust, but about confidence. So that it seems that AI and blockchain will converge, right? Will work with each other to deal with the issue of trustworthiness, to issue with confidence, to deal with the issue of explainable and transparency. So this is the common thing that brings AI and BC together. So may I request that maybe Farah, you have starting with you, followed by Arijit, followed by Oliver, and followed by Dr. Justin. Just give a last word to comment about this topic about AI versus BC. How do they converge? How do they diverge? And in this case, in the context of what we've discussed. Thank you. Just a quick final note before we wrap up the session. Thank you.
I think blockchain can help, both AI and blockchain can help augment each other's capabilities. And blockchain can make AI more coherent and more easier to understand to the people in the industry.
Thank you, Farah. Next.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, of course. Like if we look at the technological aspect, both are actually happening hand in hand. There is no question that this cannot work with each other. There is no question about it. Regarding industry implementation, there will be some little bit of difference where probably exactly blockchain can be used, where exactly probably AI can be used. If I compare both of them, maybe in health and insurance, more and more AI is being used in the larger industry aspect, more AI is being implemented rather than blockchain. That's the trend that I am actually watching, and that's actually we are all seeing from the reports. But to be very precise, maybe in future both of these things will merge and work with each other like brothers and sisters.
Thank you, Arijit. Well said. Over to you, Oliver.
Sure. I want to emphasize on the point that automation is a great thing to have, but we also need to understand that we need to be ready for automation. So likewise, whether it is AI or blockchain, we need to be ready. And we need to also decide for ourselves how much transparency, how much blockchain we want to put in place, how much AI we want to put in place. Because we can have the best technology. If we humans are not ready and cannot benefit from the technology, it becomes a white elephant. So the upskilling, the awareness of technology must come hand in hand with the ability or the capability of technology that's being deployed. So that needs to come in tandem. Back to you.
Thank you. Well said. Over to you, Dr. Justin.
The nerdiness in me is about to come out with this, in that, it took 20 years for the internet to catch on, right? And me and my fellow researchers in the blockchain and AI space, some of us say we're in 97 right now. Some people say, no, it's 96. No, it's more 96. Oh, it's 97. So my whole point is that we're very early on in this. We don't know where this thing is going. We just know it's here, and we're making sure we're on this train. You know what? Let me back up. We're making sure we're on that SpaceX rocket that's about to go to the moon. Put it that way. because this thing, we're very early on. This thing is only the beginning. And a lot of people are making a lot of money right now. And there's no true use case. There's no really true use case for these solutions. There's no true use case for NFTs right now. You have 15-year-old millionaires right now trading NFTs. You have people playing Axie Infinity. I have 22 people in Nigeria right now playing Axie Infinity for me. They're making more money playing Axie Infinity for me than they are in their full-time jobs. Same thing in Sri Lanka. This Web3 thing is going to change the world. And we're only at the beginning of it, and we don't know where this is going. That's all.
That is a very visionary and intriguing insight for sure. It's a very good parting note to all of you who have patiently endured and learned from these distinguished speakers, right, in the last 90 minutes or so. So from blockchain's ability to track and trace food supply chains to the integration of AI in almost every facet of healthcare, I believe that each is tackling some of the world's biggest problem, be it AI or BC. So it turns out that they actually work well in unison too, from what I hear from them, building and organizing immense databases, strengthening cybersecurity protocols, and performing tasks in a fraction of the time it takes humans, while attempting and aligning towards building a trustworthy set of platforms and tools to ensure integrity of the data and algorithms. And we also spoke about transparencies versus vulnerabilities, which will never be ending, but evolving, right? So I would like to thank the speakers for their time today. And I just want to highlight that the four of them are actually our part of our faculty advisors for the global certification in applied AI. They will be also advising for those of you who join the CAI program. In their respective fields, they'll be providing insights, inputs as what you've heard, and they'll be mentoring and coaching you too while you are developing your AI solutions as part of the global certification. So thank you so much, everyone. We will let the video run in the next 5 minutes or so, and we hope to see you in episode 2 and 3 that's taking place this week. Maybe Miza can share also the upcoming sessions. And once again, thank you to the panelists. Thank you for staying up, Dr. Justin. Oliver, I know you're busy with a lot of other engagements. Thank you. And Arijit, happy birthday to you once again. And Farah, thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Nazri. We're going to make sure the NFT for Arjit's happy birthday.
Yes, indeed.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, everyone. Take care.